I think there are two important components we have to keep in mind. Number one is the limits of human capacity to endure suffering, pain, humiliation, siege, occupation, colonialism, apartheid. We've been talking about this for such a long time, but we were not taken serious by the mainstream media, by mainstream academia. We have always argued that the human tenacity, the human element in the story is greatly neglected. This is not about firepower. It's not about balances of power. It's not about American influence and hegemony on the Middle East. It's about the fact that you can't push a group of people for this much, for this long, without harvesting any repercussions. And this is precisely what Palestinians are doing. They are telling us, they are telling the world that enough is enough. We had enough humiliation. We are dying either way. So at least we die standing, we die fighting. So there is a human component to the story, but there is a political component to the story as well. The Middle East is moving on, we are told. The Middle East is changing. Netanyahu on September 23 stood in front of the United Nations General Assembly and he held a placard or a sign. On it, there was a map of the Middle East, and on top it says the new Middle East. A new Middle East that does not care about Palestinians. A new Middle East in which Arabs and Muslims and Middle Easterns are normalizing with Israel and funding Israel, investing billions upon billions of dollars in Israel and opening their markets to the Israeli economy and purchasing Israeli weapons, if you will, and Palestinians are not a factor in that equation. So what the resistance has done, something that none of us had expected. I mean, we did expect some kind of an upheaval, popular upheaval, but what has happened is beyond any political expectations. It is a flood. It is a storm. And within the first day of this war, within the first hour of the first day, in fact, within the first 20 minutes of the first hour of the first day of the war, suddenly Palestine is back at the center of Arab politics, of Middle Eastern politics. They are the leaders of Arab politics. They are the only political agents that is actually able to mess up all the cards, taking us back to square one. The interesting thing is that Netanyahu declared on the third day of the war that he will change the Middle East in his retaliation against Gaza, killing hundreds of people, all innocent children, women. We know that. He said, I will change the Middle East. But hold on, you just declared that the Middle East has changed. What are you talking about? How many times do you need to change the Middle East before you accept that the Middle East cannot be a new Middle East without justice for the Palestinian people? How many times will you try to overlook the Palestinian people, to marginalize them as irrelevant to the political discourse, to the events in the region, to anything? You have done it in 2017 with Jared Kushner and his new Middle East, and with the normalization, the so-called Abraham Accords, and that completely failed. And you've done it again and again before and ever since. And every single time the Palestinians, under siege, under-equipped, fighting from tunnels, are able to show that no matter what Israel and the United States do, Palestinians will remain not only an important factor, but perhaps the most important political card and political factor in all events in the Middle East. And now, interestingly enough, we are seeing that the divided Arabs fighting in Syria, politically fighting in Lebanon, divided everywhere, the Shia and the Sunnis turning against each other. Suddenly, Gaza alone managed to unite Arabs and Muslims within the matters of ours. This powerful impact Palestine has on the Muslim and Arab psyche all over the world, but most importantly, this time around is different. It's not emotional impact. It's Palestinians as powerful political agents. And this is what's so new and so different about this particular fight. They want to achieve so much, and they have already achieved so much. They wanted to unite the Palestinian people, and they have done so. They wanted to unite the Arab and Palestinians around Palestine, and they have done so. They wanted to recenter, recenter Palestine at the heart of the political equation, and they have done so. They wanted to deprive and Netanyahu of his regular tools of pressure on Palestinians by proving that they are capable of exacting as much damage, if not even more, on Israel. And they have done so. Now, Netanyahu and the Israeli government and Israelis and Zionists everywhere are pretending that nothing has changed. We still have the upper hand. Palestinians are still fighting deep inside Israel. The Palestinian fighters managed to reach an area and essentially evacuate that area that is two times the size of Gaza within Israel, within the matter of hours. 25 Israeli settlements and kibbutzim have been shut down. 50 to 60,000 Israeli settlers at the border ran away. The Israeli military abandoned its bases. This is a completely different dynamic, completely different. We can't say, yes, Palestinians are still fighting a resistance war, but we can't say, oh, this is irrelevant. The Palestinians are fighting with homemade rockets that are like fireworks. We have been saying, yeah, maybe that was the case many years ago. But the military component of this conflict has changed. And Palestinians have not even shown too many of their cards. They've only shown one or two cards, yet there are so many cards that are yet to be shown, so many targets that haven't been targeted, so many missiles and rockets that have not been reintroduced. And more importantly, there are other lines of defense coming from Lebanon, from Syria, from the West Bank that have not been fully utilized as well. So that camaraderie has been building up for a while. May 2021, when all the resistance in Palestine all rose along with millions of Palestinians in all of Palestine, occupied and historic Palestine, that initiated a new era in the history of Palestinian unity. But we haven't yet seen this change reflecting itself on the political situation, meaning that there hasn't been a political paradigm shift. The Palestinian Authority is still there. They are doing security coordinations with Israel. They are arresting Palestinians. They are torturing prisoners and all of that. Now, the biggest challenge for Palestinians right now, and I do think that this has to be in the works, that they need to get rid of the Palestinian Authority. I can't imagine that all of this has been taken with the expectations that the Palestinian Authority will remain in place. And this is why Mahmoud Abbas said what he said. Suddenly, I mean, remember, a few years ago, he referred to this kind of resistance as, in Arabic, abathiyya. It means useless. And now he is defending the Palestinian people's right to defend themselves. This is a major change in his political discourse, because he knows that if he does not buy time and shift the political discourse dramatically, he could end up paying a very heavy price for it. But I really do think that this is just about buying time. And I don't think the Palestinian Authority, in its current form, is going to last for much longer. I don't think the Palestinians really had any expectations on the international community, and by that I mean the Western component of the international community. Let's be very, very clear on that. And hopefully this is changing. There is a global influx in politics, and hopefully in no time the international community is not going to be defined academically as the US-led international community or the West-led international community. We have seen what is happening at the United Nations right now, where Russia and China are refusing to sign into an American statement condemning the Palestinians. The Russian position has been, there's no need for that. Let's just move forward with immediate ceasefire and respecting international law and all the rest. And the Chinese reiterated their position of don't avoid attacking civilians on both sides and return to some kind of a political peace process. That position is somewhat satisfied for Palestinians. As far as the Americans are concerned, they are trying to create this international momentum in which Israel appears as the victim, and Israel is in a state of self-defense. And if we don't move very strongly against the terrorists, this is going to be the end of democracy in the Middle East, and so forth and so on. Uh, but this is not surprising in the least by Palestinians. I don't think they are actually following very closely what Washington is saying. And you could see that through the type of action that they have taken. You don't go to Israel in hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers, take hostages, and engage with Palestinians, with Israelis who are fighting in 25 or at some estimates 50 different military posts, engaging with Israelis fighting with American weapons, and expect that the Americans are going to take a balanced position. I think the American position is going to remain as strictly guided by the Israeli position, and there's no surprise in that. So it's important to note that normalization is no longer possible with the Americans and the Saudis. It's just not possible. And there are many reasons for that. One of them is that the massive pro-Palestine sentiment in the Arab world. I mean, when an actor, imagine this, when an actor or a football player or a celebrity takes Israel's side, he or she is attacked by millions of pro-Palestinians all around the world. Imagine if the Saudi government that represents the Muslim Ummah because of Al-Kaaba and the Haram al-Sharif and all of this goes and normalize with Israel. This is not going to happen anytime soon. Whether it's based on moralistic reasons or not, it doesn't matter. But from a political point of view, it's not possible. And my suspicion is that the timing of this operation, one of the factors, not the only factor, and not necessarily the lead factor, but one of the major factors behind the timing of this operation is to bring to a halt any potential normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Saudi Arabia is very, very important for two major reasons. Number one, it represents the Muslim Ummah because of its relationship with the Muslim sites in Mecca and all of that, and because many Muslim countries, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, and so many other Muslim countries in Asia, abide more or less or kind of measure their political action more or less is guided by the position of the Saudis. So this could be this normalization with the Saudis could be a gate, a floodgate that opens towards more normalization between other Muslim countries and Israel. So this is not just about the Saudis; it's about the repercussions of the Saudis. And number two, it's a major economic hub. The Israeli economy is in tatters. The Israeli shekel the currency has fallen by 3% in the matter of hours, the biggest fall within 8 years. The foreign investments in Israel has fallen by 60% last year, according to the Israeli government. 60%. Any normalization between a economically powerful country like the Saudis and Israel would mean that there is a lifeline for the Israeli economy. That has ended. And that is a significant achievement for the Palestinian, not just resistance, but for the Palestinian political strategy behind the timing of this war.